The galaxy never cared for Earth. To most alien species, our blue marble was a curiosity, one among trillions of scattered rocks circling unimportant stars. But when the Dominion's Grand Council declared humanity officially extinct, it wasn't pity they felt. It was relief. A relief born from fear. The decree was broadcast across every star system under Dominion control. Holographic banners stretched across plazas the size of continents. Metallic voices of translators rang out from towering spires. Homo sapiens, the violent anomaly of Sol 3, has perished. Their species is no more. Their threat is gone. Crowds of aliens cheered. Relief swept across sectors like a drug. They showed images, burned cities, ruined landscapes, shattered orbital stations around Earth. To the Dominion, these weren't tragedies. They were trophies. Proof that the stubborn apes had been wiped away forever. But the Dominion didn't know everything. They didn't know about the Ark. The Ark wasn't a ship in the traditional sense. It was a myth wrapped in steel and fire. A desperate project launched when Earth fell. Thousands had died to keep it hidden. The Dominion thought they bombed every dockyard, but beneath the frozen oceans of Europa, in a cavern shielded by ice and silence, humanity had built their lifeboat. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't beautiful. It was ugly, jagged, stitched together from 1,000 stolen designs. But it flew. And inside it slept 30,000 survivors, frozen in cryogenic vaults, waiting for a time when Earth's children would rise again. And when the Dominion declared us extinct, the Ark's commander, Admiral Cale Draven, was watching. Draven wasn't a politician. He wasn't even supposed to lead. He was a soldier forged in wars Earth had lost. His left arm was cybernetic, built from the wreckage of a Dominion drone he'd personally torn apart. His eyes carried the steel-gray calm of someone who had buried more friends than enemies. On the Ark's bridge, he replayed the Dominion's broadcast again and again. Each time, the alien announcer's words struck like knives. Humanity is gone, erased, forgotten. Draven finally shut the feed down. Around him, the bridge crew stirred uneasily. Young officers, engineers, medics, all that remained of a species that had refused to die quietly. Draven's voice cut the silence. They're writing our obituary before the body's even cold. Mirachin, chief engineer, and one of the few civilians awake, spat on the deck. Good. Let them think we're gone. Ghosts bite harder. Draven allowed himself a thin smile. Maybe. But ghosts don't answer the call. We will. Outside the Ark, space stretched infinite and uncaring. Inside, 30,000 frozen heartbeats waited. The Ark's engines, cobbled together from stolen alien cores, groaned with every burn. Supplies were limited, fuel scarcer still. But morale, that was priceless. And right now it was crumbling. Every officer had seen the Dominion's announcement. Every crew member wondered the same thing. If the galaxy believes we're dead, what's the point of rising again? Draven answered the question not with speeches, but with action. Set course for Titan's ruins, he ordered. We need what was left behind. Titan, the last battlefield of the Human Dominion War, where Earth's fleet had made its suicidal last stand to buy time for the Ark's launch. Where legends had burned, and humanity's greatest warship, the Leviathan, had been torn apart in orbit. Most believed nothing survived there. Just wreckage scattered across the orange clouds of Saturn's largest moon. But Draven knew better. He had been there. He had seen the Leviathan fall, but not everything destroyed with her. If they could recover even fragments, weapon cores, data archives, or, God willing, intact reactors, they could turn survival into resistance. The Ark emerged above Titan 3 days later. Gas swirled below like rivers of fire. Wreckage glittered in orbit, silent tombstones of the dead. Broken ships spun endlessly, their hulls scorched and torn. And there, drifting like a carcass, was the Leviathan. She was massive even in death, larger than any Dominion battleship. Her hull was gutted, her engines torn, but her armored spine still hung stubbornly against gravity's pull. Scars blackened her plates, Yet the human flag etched into her prow still glimmered faintly under Saturn's reflected light. The bridge fell silent at the sight. Some saluted. Others wept quietly. Draven whispered, "They declared us extinct." But the Leviathan still answers. Boarding her was madness. Dominion patrols still swept the outer system. But madness was humanity's gift. Shuttles pierced the Leviathan's corpse. Flashlights cut through her corridors, illuminating steel stained with centuries of dust and blood. They found skeletons, soldiers who had died holding their posts. Some still clutched rifles. Others sat slumped in command chairs, silent guardians of a lost era. And then they found it, buried deep within her reactor core, the Helix drive. It wasn't a weapon. It was worse. It was a promise. A prototype engine designed to bend wormholes, not just travel through them, but weaponize them. It was incomplete, untested, and unstable, which was why the Dominion had ordered its destruction at all costs. But it had survived. When the Helix drive was hauled aboard the Ark, Draven called a council of his officers. The room was thick with tension. Engineers warned it could tear the ship apart. Strategists argued it was useless, without weapons to wield alongside it. But Draven wasn't listening to fear. "They declared us extinct," he said, voice like iron. "They erased us from their histories, from their maps, from their nightmares. But history is written by survivors, not victors. This drive is our proof. Proof that humanity still breathes. Proof that ghosts can burn brighter than the living." He looked each officer in the eye. "We are not extinct. We are the last ember. And embers, when fanned, become fire." Far above Titan, Dominion patrol ships moved lazily, scanning debris, never suspecting prey beneath their feet. On the Ark's bridge, Draven gave his first true order of war. "Arm whatever we have. Ready the Helix. Today we answer the call." The stars outside seemed to shimmer in response. And for the first time since Earth burned, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were preparing to roar. The Dominion believed in inevitability. Their fleets patrolled like clockwork. Their archives recorded every fallen species. Their maps showed conquest as permanent. To them, extinction was not just victory, it was law. But laws were made to be broken. The Ark hung silent in Titan shadow, a rusting relic among wreckage. Dominion patrols passed above, sweeping with scanners that painted the void in ghostly green. Admiral Draven watched them from the bridge, arms crossed. His officers waited in tense silence. No alarms yet. No red flares of detection. Just the ticking of borrowed time. "Report," Draven said. Mirachin leaned over the console, her voice edged with awe and dread. "The Helix drive is unstable. I can stabilize it for one jump. After that, we'll be lucky if it doesn't rip us into atoms." Draven's mouth curled in something between a smirk and a snarl. "One jump is all we need." The spark of defiance. The crew had gathered in the Ark's mess hall, soldiers, engineers, medics. Even the civilians thawed early from cryo-sleep. The Dominion's announcement of their extinction had circulated, and every survivor had seen it. Fear festered. Doubt gnawed. Draven stepped into the center of the crowd, a scarred giant silhouetted by the Ark's pale lights. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "They say we're extinct," he began, calm but cutting. "That we're ashes scattered across a forgotten rock. That our fire is gone." He paused, scanning faces, haunted, hollow, desperate. "Look around you. Are you gone? Are you ashes?" A murmur rippled. Shaking heads. Fists tightening. Extinct species don't steal war engines from under the Dominion's nose. Extinct species don't build arcs out of scraps while the galaxy cheers for their graves. Extinct species don't rise again. He lifted his cybernetic arm, metal gleaming. "We are not extinct. We are the ember. And tonight we set the galaxy alight." The hall thundered with roars. Fists slammed tables. Fear burned into fury. The plan. Draven's first target wasn't grand. It wasn't a fleet or a capital world. It was something smaller, something sharper. A Dominion relay station orbiting Enceladus. The station wasn't heavily armed. Just a hub for communications. A node connecting Dominion fleets across Saturn's sector. Destroy it, and the Dominion would stumble blind. Patrols cut off. Reinforcements delayed. Hit the nerves first, Draven explained to his officers. Make the beast bleed confusion before you strike its heart. The Ark wasn't a warship. She was a survivor's coffin strapped with stolen weapons. But with the Helix drive primed, she could appear where no enemy expected her. Strike. Fade. Survive. It wouldn't win the war, but it would begin it. The jump. The Ark's engine screamed as the Helix drive engaged. The bridge lights flickered crimson. Space warped ahead like glass bending under pressure. For a heartbeat, every human aboard felt like their bodies were unraveling, strings pulled across dimensions. Then, with a soundless shatter, they were gone, slingshot through a corridor of impossible geometry. When they re-emerged, Saturn's glow was gone. Before them loomed Enceladus, its icy surface glittering beneath a pale star. Orbiting above was their prey, the Dominion relay station. It was massive, ring-shaped, bristling with antennae and shields. Hundreds of Dominion workers floated around it in sleek drones, oblivious. No warship guarded it. Why guard a galaxy where your enemies were extinct? Draven's lips curled. Target acquired. The first shot. Load the scavenged plasma batteries, Draven ordered. The Ark's cannons weren't pristine. They were stitched from the guts of broken ships, barrels scored with age. But when they fired, the void lit in blinding arcs of blue. The first volley ripped through the station's antennae, tearing comm arrays into molten shards. Fire blossomed in zero gravity, frozen embers scattering like snow. Panic swept the Dominion drones. Sirens blared in alien tongues. The relay, so confident in its invulnerability, scrambled helplessly. Target their reactors, Mirachin barked. Cut the heart. The Ark's second salvo roared. Plasma slammed into the station's core. A chain reaction erupted, white-hot flames bursting outward, splitting the ring in two. The Dominion's voice, once declaring humanity's extinction, now screamed warnings across the void. Too late. The station was dying. The answer call. As the relay broke apart, Draven opened a secure channel. Not to the Dominion, to the survivors. Across the Ark, every speaker crackled with his voice. Tonight, humanity answered. He let silence follow, letting the fire outside speak for him. They called us extinct. We showed them our roar. Outside, the Dominion relay collapsed, fragments spinning into Enceladus orbit like shattered teeth. For the first time in a century, Dominion comms went dark across the sector. The crew cheered. Some wept. Others simply stared at the flames in awe. It wasn't just victory. It was proof. Proof that humanity wasn't gone. Proof that extinction was a lie. The price of defiance. But victory had a cost. The Helix drive screamed in protest as the Ark prepared for retreat. Sparks rained from consoles. Engineers shouted warnings. The prototype had taken them here, but it might not take them back. Draven clenched the armrest of his chair. Do it. Before their reinforcements arrive. The Ark tore reality open once again. This time, the corridor of warped geometry twisted violently, as if trying to rip the ship apart. Bulkheads buckled. Alarms wailed. And then, darkness. When lights returned, the Ark wasn't where it had begun. They weren't even near Saturn anymore. Instead, they drifted above a star system none recognized. A barren world below, no Dominion patrols in sight. Mirachin slumped over her console, pale. Helix burned out. We can't jump again. Not without repairs. We're stranded. Draven didn't flinch. His eyes locked on the empty stars. Then we make this our spark. A new base. A new fire. The reaction. Across the galaxy, Dominion command scrambled. Patrols howled confusion at the loss of contact. Fleets rerouted, chasing ghosts. The destruction of the Enceladus relay was impossible, they insisted. There were no humans left to do it. And yet, whispers began. Among slaves, among mercenaries, even among Dominion citizens. Whispers of fire in the void. of the extinct species that had struck a death blow from beyond the grave. Whispers that perhaps humanity was not gone. Whispers that perhaps the galaxy's greatest nightmare had returned. The Oath. On the Ark, survivors gathered once again. They were exhausted. Supplies dwindled. The helix was broken. But their eyes burned with something new. Not just survival. Purpose. Draven stood before them, steel arm gleaming under the dim lights. Tonight we took back our name. They thought us ashes. We proved we are fire. From this day, every strike we make, every ember we fan, will remind the galaxy of one truth. He raised his fist, voice booming across the chamber. Humanity does not go extinct. Humanity answers the call. The survivors roared back, fists raised, voices cracking the silence of the void. And in that roar, humanity's funeral ended. Its war began. The galaxy did not understand what had happened at Enceladus. How could it? The Dominion's word was law, and its archives spoke only truth. If they declared a species extinct, then that species was gone, finished, forgotten. And yet, the Dominion's relay station was rubble, its proud ring broken, its signal silenced. By ghosts, by humans. The Dominion's rage. The Dominion High Council gathered inside the Obsidian Spire, a fortress that hung in orbit over the molten seas of Vera Prime. It was here that they decreed wars, erased histories, and signed species into oblivion. Archon Varric, scaled and terrible, slammed a clawed hand onto the Council's crystal table. The projection of Enceladus's ruins shimmered, an insult too large to be ignored. Impossible. Varric's voice was a guttural snarl. The Terrans are extinct. We declared it. A cloaked counselor hissed from the shadows. Then explained this destruction. Dominion protocols are clear. No other power possesses plasma signatures of Terran design. Only the humans forged weapons with such resonance. Varric's throat rumbled. He hated the word. Humans. He had watched them burn. He had signed their extinction order himself. And yet, the fire had returned. Then find them, he growled. Hunt them. If humanity claws its way back from the grave, we will bury them deeper. The hidden world. Light years away, the Ark drifted above a barren rock. The world had no name, no value, nothing but jagged canyons and endless dust storms. To the Dominion, it wasn't worth charting. To the survivors, it was perfect. The Ark descended into one of the planet's great fissures, disappearing beneath the storms. Crews spilled out, establishing makeshift camps, digging into caves, setting up oxygen recyclers. What they built was crude, ugly, temporary. But to them, it was home. Mira Chen studied the scorched helix drive, its conduits fried, its casing split. She wiped grease from her forehead and muttered, "It'll take months. Maybe more." Draven's reply was simple, steady. "Then we have months to prepare." The firebrand's voice. It wasn't enough to hide. Not anymore. Humanity needed to be heard, to be seen, to be feared again. That was where Juno Hale came in. Juno had been a journalist before the fall. Now she was something more dangerous, a storyteller with nothing left to lose. She had salvaged a Dominion signal scrambler, rewired it with old Terran tech, and turned it into something new, a beacon. And on the fifth night on the hidden world, Juno's broadcast burned across the stars. The galaxy awoke to a voice they thought long gone. "This is humanity," Juno declared, her words sharp as plasma fire. "You wrote us into your history books as dead. You carved extinct into the stars. But you were wrong. We live. We fight. And we are coming." The message spread like a spark in dry grass. Dominion censorship scrambled to erase it, but not before it slipped into shadow networks, smugglers' bands, resistance cells. For the first time in centuries, the word human was not whispered with pity. It was spoken with awe, with fear. The first guerrilla strike. The Ark couldn't fight fleets, but it didn't need to. It only needed to remind the galaxy that humanity was fire. Their next target was a Dominion slave transport above the mining world of Zarthos. Thousands of alien prisoners, broken species, conquered long before humanity, were being ferried to labor camps. Draven's officers studied the holomap in the Ark's war room. "We don't have the firepower for a frontal assault," Mira warned. "We don't need it," Draven replied. His cybernetic hand clenched into a fist. "We hit fast, cut their chains, vanish. Let the galaxy see us not as ghosts, but as liberators." The Ark burst from the void like a predator. Its cannons roared once, shredding the Dominion escort frigates before they even raised shields. Marines stormed the slave transport, their weapons scavenged but deadly. Inside, halls filled with chains erupted into chaos. Slaves stared in disbelief at the humans tearing down doors, breaking shackles, shouting, "You're free!" For many, it was the first time they had seen humanity. The first time they realized the extinct species wasn't extinct at all. One alien prisoner, scaled and frail, grasped Draven's arm with trembling hands. You're supposed to be gone." Draven met his gaze, steel eyes unflinching. Then spread the truth. "We're not gone. We're just getting started." The Ark escaped into the void with thousands freed. The Dominion arrived too late, left only with wreckage and whispers. The flame catches. Within weeks, rumors became movements. Slave revolts flared on distant worlds. Resistance groups painted human symbols onto Dominion walls. Flames, skulls, wings afire. Everywhere, whispers grew. The humans are back. Some feared them. Some prayed to them. Some swore loyalty. But all agreed on one thing. The galaxy was no longer quiet. The price of fire. Yet fire burns both ways. The Dominion was vast, and its fury was endless. For every strike the humans made, the Dominion unleashed reprisals. Villages scorched. Colonies purged. Entire moons silenced under orbital bombardment. Mirachin slammed her fists onto the Ark's console after hearing the reports. "They're killing innocents because of us." Draven stood silent for a long moment, eyes shadowed. Then, his voice came low and hard. "They were killing innocents before us. The difference is, now the galaxy sees it. Now, they know the Dominion bleeds." It wasn't comfort, but it was truth. The rising legend. One night, in the mess hall of the hidden base, Juno played intercepted Dominion broadcasts. They no longer called humans extinct. They called them something worse. Renegades. Monsters. Unfinished ghosts. The crew laughed. Some raised cups in mock salute. Others carved the words into bulkheads. The galaxy had named them again. And this time, humanity wore the name like armor. The fire spreads. From Zarthos to the Vale Nebula, human strikes grew bolder. They sabotaged shipyards, hijacked Dominion freighters, lit rebel worlds ablaze with hope. A war had not yet begun, but something greater had. A spark, a legend, and every fire whispered the same message. Humanity does not die. Humanity answers. The Archon's nightmare. Back in the Obsidian Spire, Archon Varric stared at reports piled high, claws shaking with rage. Every day, new whispers. Every day, new strikes. He slammed his fist against the table, splintering crystal. "They think themselves fire," he snarled. "Then we will smother them. Find their nest. Find their Arkansas. And when we do, not even ashes will remain." The council bowed in silence. But deep within the shadows of the spire, a cloaked figure whispered something else. Something the Archon could not hear. "The fire spreads, Varric, and you cannot stop fire with fear." The galaxy was no longer quiet. Every star seemed to whisper the same forbidden word. Human. For the Dominion, it was blasphemy. For humanity, it was vindication. But fire spreads fast. Too fast. And sometimes it burns those who least expect it. The Dominion's hunt begins. The Obsidian Spire's council chamber burned with rage. Archon Varric stood before the High Counselors, reports flickering around him. Worlds in revolt, freighters hijacked, slaves freed. Dominion fleets humiliated. The council's voices buzzed like a swarm of knives. Contain them before the galaxy believes. Exterminate them again, this time properly. Every delay makes the humans into a legend. Varric's jaws flexed, scales bristling. Legends were dangerous. Legends could topple empires. No more whispers, he growled. We will drown them in blood. Deploy the purge fleets. The Dominion didn't just want humanity destroyed. They wanted proof of extinction. The Ark prepares. On the hidden world, the Ark's crew trained harder than ever. What had begun as survival was now a war. Draven stood in the command bay, watching as recruits rescued aliens, freed slaves, the desperate and the broken, trained beside the last humans. Crude rifles cracked. Salvaged exosuits groaned. Their army was raw, undisciplined. But their eyes burned with the same fire. Mira Chun threw a Hydra spanner down in frustration. Half the plasma coils are junk. Our shields won't last 10 seconds against a Dominion dreadnought. Draven gave her that steady look, the look of a man who had faced extinction and chosen defiance anyway. Then we don't fight dreadnoughts. We fight smart. We fight dirty. And we fight like humans. The Dominion's shadow. One night, as storms ripped across the barren world above their base, Juno Hale intercepted a transmission. Her face went pale as she played the signal. This is the Dominion Purge Fleet. By decree of the Archon, every world that harbors humans will be cleansed. There will be no mercy, no surrender. Hide them, and you burn with them. The crew fell silent. Even the aliens who had sworn loyalty to humanity looked shaken. They had traded one prison for another, but now the cost was entire civilizations. Draven broke the silence. Then we don't wait for them to find us. We strike first. The trap at Vera's maw. The Dominion expected fear. Instead, the Ark offered teeth. Their next mission was madness. Bait a purge fleet into a nebula known as Vera's maw, a storm of ionized gases and electromagnetic fury. Dominion ships relied on their advanced NAV systems. But human instinct, fast, reckless, impossible to predict, thrived in chaos. The Ark drifted at the edge of the storm, broadcasting an encrypted signal designed to draw them in. They'll think it's our base, Mira said grimly, fingers dancing over consoles. They'll come heavy, Draven replied. Good. Let them choke. The trap was set. The battle erupts. The Purge fleet arrived like an avalanche of steel. 12 warships, dreadnoughts flanked by corvettes, their cannons glowing with planetary killer energy. Juno whispered into the comms, broadcasting galaxy-wide again. Let the stars bear witness. Humanity does not run. And the Ark dove into the maw. The Dominion followed, confident in their superiority. But inside the storm, their systems faltered. Navigation scrambled. Sensors screamed static. The Ark danced between plasma surges, firing torpedoes into blind spots, using the storm itself as a shield. Explosions ripped through corvettes. A dreadnought lurched sideways, half its hull sheared off by an ion strike. The maw devoured steel and arrogance alike. Inside the Ark, crew members shouted with fury and triumph. But victory was never free. The sacrifice. Halfway through the battle, the Dominion dreadnought Judicator locked onto the Arkansas. Even with scrambled systems, its cannons found their mark. The first blast tore through the Ark's flank, sending fire across the mess hall. Dozens were dead in an instant. Shields collapsing. Mira screamed. Draven barked orders, but he knew. If the Judicator fired again, the Ark was finished. That's when Cade Malik, the Ark's pilot, made his choice. Get them out, he growled, seizing manual control. I'll buy us the time. Before anyone could stop him, he detached the Ark's auxiliary gunship, the Sparrowhawk. Engines roared, flames spilling across the viewport as he rammed straight into the Judicator's cannon array. The explosion lit the maw like a second sun. The Judicator died screaming, and so did Cade. Silence fell over the Ark as it limped into the storm's cover. Juno's voice was raw, breaking as she broadcast. Remember this name. Cade Malik. Human. Pilot. Legend. The galaxy reacts. The footage of the battle spread faster than the Dominion could suppress it. Not just the destruction of a purge fleet, but the sacrifice of a single man, hurling himself into death to give his people a chance. Across slave camps and broken worlds, beings whispered his name. Cade Malik. A human who proved the fire could not be smothered. For every colony the Dominion bombed, 3 more swore vengeance. For every crackdown, 100 new rebels rose. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. The broken but unbowed. The Ark limped back to its hidden base, smoke still trailing, scars carved deep. Mira collapsed in exhaustion, whispering, "We can't keep doing this. We're breaking faster than they are." Draven stared at the viewport, at the storm-ridden skies. His cybernetic hand flexed, trembling not with fear, but fury. "Then we stop fighting as ghosts," he said. His voice carried like steel through the ship. "The galaxy knows we live. It's time they know we lead." Juno raised her head, eyes burning. "Then we give them more than whispers. We give them a war." The Archon's fear. In the Obsidian Spire, Archon Varric watched the footage of the Purge fleet's destruction. For the first time in centuries, his claws trembled, not from rage, but from something far more dangerous. Fear. Humanity had been erased from his empire's history. And yet, here they were, burning his fleets, seeding rebellion, spreading fire. He turned to his council. His voice was low, but every word dripped venom. No more mistakes. If humanity wants a war, he bared his fangs. Then we give them extinction. Again. The spark before the inferno. Back on the Ark, Draven addressed the crew, the freed slaves, the rebels who had joined them. "We've been hunted, exiled, erased. They called us extinct. They thought we were finished." His eyes blazed, every scar on his body alive with fury. But humanity is not finished. Humanity is the match. Humanity is the fire. And this galaxy is about to burn. The mess hall roared, not just with human voices, but with hundreds of alien allies, chanting a single word. Human. 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 The fire was no longer just humanity's. It was a galaxy's rebellion, and it had only just begun.